Madeline Torres had always felt like an outsider in Maplewood High School. When she first enrolled as a freshman, she carried with her a small cardboard box of homemade pastries, her abuela's famous conchas, and a quiet smile that masked her excitement to begin high school in the new town her parents had moved to for her father's job. In her first week, she noticed how classmates would stare when she handed out those sweet breads. Some whispered, "What is that?" Or, "Why doesn't she bring something normal like chips?" She tried to laugh it off, offering them the soft, sugar-dusted bread anyway. But eventually the silence that followed made her shut the box and keep her pastries to herself. Her last name, Torres, marked her immediately as different. While many students had names like Jessica, Ashley, or Ryan, she found herself constantly repeating, "It's Madeline Torres, Madeline Torres. On the first day of Spanish class, a subject she chose out of nostalgia for her family's Mexican heritage, the teacher asked her to say her name out loud. When she did, a few girls giggled. "Your name's just like the class," they said. "So you're so extra." She didn't understand the cruelty in their tone until later, outside in the courtyard, when she overheard two of them. "She thinks she's some exotic princess or something." It was then she realized that her culture, her accent, and the fact that she wore her hair curly and thick, to honor the family genes she knew might someday fade, marked her as permanently different in a sea of conformity. She tried to blend in. She adopted more neutral clothing, denim jeans and simple graphic tees, rather than the colorful embroidered blouses she loved. She straightened her hair once for a pep rally, hoping nobody would notice she looked like anyone other than the preppy mainstream of Maplewood High. But when she returned with straight hair, classmates said she looked like a different person, or worse, whispered, "She's trying too hard." So she switched back to curls, which felt right, but only reinforced how they saw her as other. The awkwardness deepened during gym class. When the coach divided the girls into teams, she deliberately put Madeline on the leftover group each time, as if she didn't belong due to the way she moved. Her agility and grace set her apart, but that distinction wasn't appreciated. One day, during a pickup basketball game, she passed the ball to a classmate who blocked her shot and called her weird, too tall, too quiet, all while the referees wore amused expressions. She played through it, understanding that her height, 5'8", made her a target for teasing. By junior year, Madeline had lost count of how many times someone had muttered different or snickered when she brought her homemade lunch, tortas and aguas frescas, to school. She ate alone behind the science building, shaded by a lopsided maple tree, whose crimson leaves drifted in autumn breezes. She kept her head down as she scribbled lines of poetry in her notebook, her sentences drifting between English and the Spanish of her abuela's lullabies. The few friends she had, across different grades, seemed uneasy sitting with her when harsh glances from other students drifted toward the lunchtime benches. She felt as if she were invisible yet hypervisible at the same time, unseen for who she truly was, but spotlighted for all the ways she didn't fit in. One day that November, after a particularly rough pep rally, where a group of seniors had loudly proclaimed, "Let's give it up for the exotic freshman." Even though Madeline was actually a junior, she walked back to her locker in tears. She squeezed her books against her chest, her vision blurred as classmates filed past. She flinched when someone deliberately stuck a flyer into her locker, a neon pink sheet declaring the upcoming winter variety show, and scrawled in bold marker, "Try out to dance." Can't even pronounce her name. Someone else had scribbled a slur in the margin. She stared at the paper, fists clenched against the metal inside her locker. Her pulse pounded as if her entire heart would burst through her chest. Something inside her snapped. Enough. Instead of stuffing the flyer in her backpack, she held it like a gauntlet and walked away, thumbed through her locker lock, and headed home, mind racing. When she arrived at her family's modest duplex that afternoon, the maple tree outside her window fluttered crimson leaves against an overcast sky. Her younger brother, Diego, sat at the kitchen table surrounded by taco crumbs and laundry detergent. He was in middle school, oblivious to the seasonal change that had her reeling. Their abuela cupped her forehead, busy stirring a pot of frijoles negros as their madre, Madeline's mother, comforted her quietly on the sofa. "Mija," her mother said when she saw Madeline step inside, makeup smudged beneath her eyes. What happened?" Madeline pressed the flyer into her mother's hand, unable to speak. Her mother read, brows knitting, and knelt to hug her, breath trembling. "I hate this place," Madeline whispered into her mother's shoulder. Every day they call me different. They say I don't belong. I'm sick of it." Her abuela set a ladle aside and came over, smoothing her granddaughter's hair. "Corazon," she said softly in Spanish, "they do not know your worth. They do not know the strength of our family, the beauty of your voice. We will not hide, because they do not see us as they should." That evening, the scent of cumin and black beans enveloped their modest kitchen, and for the first time in months, Madeline felt a flicker of resolve. She realized she had spent too long shrinking herself to fit into a space not made for her. She wanted to stand tall. She wanted to be seen on her own terms. That same night, after her parents and brother were asleep, Madeline lugged her laptop and notebook to the dining table. She opened an empty document and began to type, "I am not different. I am myself." She wrote for 3 hours about her childhood, of dancing barefoot in her abuela's garden to the beat of cumbia on an old radio, of performing for family birthdays and impromptu school recitals in her old city before moving here. She described how music pulsed through her veins, how she felt most at home when she sang a song her abuela taught her in Spanish. "Cielito lindo que cantabas." The words came in both English and Spanish, a tapestry of her identity that she refused to tear apart. When the clock hit 2 a.m., she closed the document and breathed hard. She had poured her soul onto the screen. She saved it as concert idea and switched off the light. The next morning, Friday, she approached her Spanish teacher, Senora Vargas, the only adult at Maplewood High who she felt might listen. Senora Vargas had a reputation for encouraging students to celebrate their heritage. She carried worn copies of Neruda's poetry in her tote bag and hummed Mexican folk songs to herself in the halls. "Ma'am," Madeline said after class, holding out the flyer for the winter variety show, "that they wrote hateful things here. But I think I want to do something. I want to organize a concert to showcase all kinds of music from around the world and invite the whole school. To show them different can be beautiful." Senora Vargas looked at her with kind, serious eyes. "Tell me more," she said. For the next hour, Madeline spilled her plan. A student-led musical event featuring song, dance, and poetry from diverse cultures, her Latino heritage, her classmates' South Asian, African American, Middle Eastern, and even Appalachian traditions. She imagined a packed gymnasium where the student body would come to learn, to applaud, to feel a sense of unity. "No one chooses to be hated for being themselves," she said. "But if we show them how to listen, how to stand with each other, maybe they'll see our value, not our differences." Senora Vargas nodded. "I will support you," she said. "I'll speak with Principal Halloway to secure a date and a budget. But you must form a committee, find peers who believe in this." After school, Madeline printed copies of her concert idea document, laminated them with hand-painted borders, and posted them discreetly on bulletin boards around campus, around the math classroom, near the cafeteria, in the art hallway, anywhere students might notice. She wrote, "Diversity and harmony. Let your voice be heard. Student committee meeting, Monday at 4 p.m., room 112. She left stack of flyers in stacks near the front office, too. On Monday afternoon, as the final bell rang, Madeline waited outside room 112, clutching name tags she had printed that read, "Diversity in Harmony Committee Member." She had cleared the desk and arranged chairs in a circle, as Senora Vargas had suggested. At 4 p.m., only 2 classmates arrived. Kamal, a tall exchange student from India, and Autumn, a quiet senior who dressed in thrifted bohemian dresses and painted abstract murals on her notebook covers. Kamal wore headphones around his neck and carried a sitar strapped to his back. Autumn held a ukulele in a crocheted bag. Madeline greeted them with an encouraging smile. "Thank you for coming," she said. Then Senor Vargas walked in, bearing hot chocolate. She glanced at the empty chairs and asked, "Where is everyone?" Madeline shrugged, saying it's a start. By the end of that meeting, the 3 of them sketched a plan. Reach out to student clubs, multicultural club, Black Student Union, country music club, and jazz band. Invite solo singers, dancers, poets. They agreed to canvass the student body, solicit volunteers, and request a modest budget for sound equipment, lighting, and refreshments. Senora Vargas offered access to the old sound system in the theater and directed them to the principal's office. She also gave them 5 extra points for participation in her class if they helped run the event. Over the next 2 weeks, the committee grew. Casey, the captain of the basketball team, volunteered to handle stage security and line up the audience. Xavier, the lead percussionist in the marching band, agreed to coordinate with the school's music teacher to use the band's drum kit. Aisha, an honor society member whose family owned the local donut shop, offered to bake a dozen donuts for the intermission. At first, participation trickled in. Students who wanted community service hours or extra credit. But soon word got out. "What's this concert thing?" people asked. Different stuff, some teased. But others said, "Sounds cool. I want to perform my rap track." By the end of the week, auditions were scheduled. Singers, dancers, poets, instrumentalists. On the first day of auditions, a long line snaked down the hallway outside room 204, where the music classroom was. Some wore traditional garb. A Pakistani student in a flowing shalwar kameez ready to recite Sufi poetry. A pair of Latinx classmates dressed in folklorico skirts and embroidered shirts, hoping to dance to Oye Como Va. A black senior named Marcus brought his guitar to play an original R&B song. A white junior named Lily wanted to sing Imagine by John Lennon, hoping to offer a message of unity. Each person stepped up to the microphone and performed their piece before a panel of four: Madeline, Kamal, Autumn, and the band director, Mr. Henderson, who had agreed to advise on technical feasibility. Some were brilliant, some were shy, some stumbled through nerves, but each one's performance mattered to the committee. By the end of the day, they had chosen 20 acts to appear on stage that would range from 2-minute poems to 5-minute dance routines. Meanwhile, the committee had to persuade Principal Holloway, a stern man who rarely ventured beyond the administrative office. Madeline prepared a formal presentation, handwritten slides on trifold boards, outlining the educational value, promoting empathy, encouraging cultural literacy, improving school climate. She described how each act would represent a different culture or perspective. She emphasized that the concert would be free and open to all students, and that no one would be forced to attend, but encouraged to come out of curiosity and respect. She handed him a petition signed by over 100 students, pledging attendance. Holloway nodded thoughtfully and said, "All right, you have my support, but keep it orderly. Snack table in the lobby's fine, but no food in the gym. Get liability waivers for minors." He signed off on a $500 budget pulled from the Student Activities Fund. It was enough to rent a few extra spotlights, cupcakes, water bottles, and to print posters. With the budget secured, Madeline and Kamal spent hours negotiating with the local sound rental company to supply microphones and speakers at a discount once they explained the school community event purpose. Autumn contacted a graphic designer acquaintance of her older sister to print the event's poster. Diversity and Harmony, Student Culture Concert, Friday at 7 p.m., Maplewood High Gym. They hung these posters everywhere. Hallways, cafeteria, library, local coffee shop. A wave of excitement and curiosity spread. Some students whispered, "Wonder if they'll play Bollywood songs." Others said, "I'll go just to watch the poets. Heard Morgan's got good verses." Teachers began encouraging their classes to attend for extra credit or extra credit. As the weeks wore on, rehearsals in the music room and multi-purpose room ran late into the afternoon. The Latinx dance team practiced steps under the direction of their coach, Mrs. Ramirez, who lent them her battery-powered speaker to learn cumbia rhythms. The multicultural band, made up of percussion, sax, guitar, and piano, met on the practice stage after school, attempting covers of Blackbird, La Bamba, and a jazz rendition of Lean on Me. Rain pounded the windows on one chilly evening as Kamal sat cross-legged playing the sitar while Aisha ran around the lobby setting up tables. Madeline, in the center of it all, directed traffic. "Xavier, can you bring the drum kit out earlier? We need to test the mic levels." "Mrs. Stevenson, can you remind the robotics club to place chairs by 6 p.m.? Casey, get the security protocol in writing." There was tension, too. A few skeptics on the student council complained that the event would distract from final exams. Some athletes said they couldn't spare the gym stage that Friday night because they had basketball practice. One local parent called the principal's office to demand the event be canceled, labeling it a waste of taxpayer money for something too weird. But each challenge galvanized Madeline and the committee. They negotiated with the basketball coach to hold practice in the auxiliary gym instead, reminded the skeptics that final exam stress was all the more reason to bring the community together, and raised an extra $150 by selling handmade bracelets from Autumn's art class so they could cover the sound rental fee in full. Each compromise, each acquired resource, became proof of their resilience. Finally, the big night arrived. The last Friday before winter break. Snow flurries dusted the parking lot as students and parents filed into the gym at 6:30 p.m. The bleachers in crisp alignment and folding chairs spread across the polished floor. The stage was dressed with colored spotlights, red, green, blue, casting hues across the risers. A handmade banner reading Diversity and Harmony fluttered at the back. A table of cupcakes and water bottles stood to the side, and the subtle hum of the rented speakers echoed in the silent gym as the audience settled in. Many students arrived wearing outfits reflecting their heritage: tassel scarves, embroidered tunics, baseball caps from hometown teams. Everyone seemed to hold a quiet expectancy in the air, sensing that something different was about to happen. Madeline, wearing a simple black dress adorned with a colorful scarf her mother had given her, breathed deeply backstage. Senora Vargas whispered into her ear, "Go out and be proud." Kamal adjusted the sitar's tuning pegs, while Autumn ran her fingertips gently over the ukulele strings. Xavier gave a thumbs up, his drumsticks poised above the snare. Mr. Henderson, as the soundboard operator, nodded at Madeline. "You ready?" She swallowed and said, "Let's do it." With a gentle piano chord from a borrowed keyboard on stage, Madeline stepped up to the microphone. A hush fell over the crowd. She tapped the stand lightly and began to speak. "Good evening, Maplewood High. Thank you for joining us for Diversity and Harmony, a celebration of who we are, where we come from, and how we can stand together, not despite our differences, but because of them." Applause trickled in, but the real magic lay in the tension, sloughing off of shoulders in the audience. The first act was a poem by Morgan, a shy girl known for evading attention. She stepped into the spotlight, voice trembling at first, then rising in confidence as she recited her verses. Lines about being unseen, about skin tones, about longing for acceptance. Her classmate Autumn accompanied her on guitar, strumming gentle arpeggios that lifted Morgan's words into something heartfelt. By the time Morgan concluded, tears glistened in the eyes of both students and parents. The applause was spontaneous and enveloping. Next, a trio of Bollywood dancers took the stage, 2 juniors and a sophomore, wearing vibrant choli tops and lehenga skirts. The beat dropped with a lively tabla rhythm and synchronized Bollywood steps. The crowd cheered, clapped along, and students waved their arms in imitation. A handful of white classmates, some former skeptics, stood and danced in the aisles, laughing in delight. Madeline watched from the wings, her heart pounding. As each act followed, an R&B singer performing an original song about love and unity, a gospel choir from the church down the street singing, "Oh, Happy Day," a Chinese folk dancer in a flowing red silk dress performing a traditional fan dance. The gym transformed into a mosaic of sound and movement. One act was a bagpipe solo by Ryan, an exchange student from Scotland. Another was a flamenco guitar duet played by twin brothers, their fingers dancing across strings as their feet tapped purposeful rhythms on a thick wooden box built for cajon. A student band, composed of Asian, Latino, and Black teenagers, closed out the first section by performing an upbeat rendition of "Lean on Me," which drew the entire audience to its feet, clapping in time. Between acts, the announcer, Xavier, shared brief anecdotes about each style's cultural roots, reminding the audience that behind every performance lay a story of family, history, or hope. He explained how cumbia originated in Colombia, and that the bagpipes came from medieval Scotland. He described how gospel music emerged from African-American spirituals, and how flamenco evolved from the Romani people in Spain. Students leaned in, curious, nodding to each new revelation. By 8:30 p.m., excitement simmered as the final act prepared. Madeline herself, accompanied by the school's jazz piano player, was to perform Cielito Lindo in Spanish and English. Her abuela's lullaby turned into a jazz standard. She stepped into the spotlight, the audience quieting at once. The piano solo introduced the melody softly. Then Madeline's voice emerged, "Ay, ay, 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 canta y no llores." Her voice embraced the gym with soulful warmth, each note carrying a lifetime of memories. As she switched to English for the second verse, "Sweet little heaven that you sang of," the audience felt a collective exhale, as if hearing 2 worlds entwined in harmony. When she reached the final crescendo, the applause roared like thunder. The principal, seated near the front row, rose from his chair, clapped vigorously, and beamed at her. He motioned for Madeline to return to the stage for a collective bow, alongside every performer. The gym erupted as dozens of hands shot into the air, whistling, stamping feet, and cheering. Madeline's eyes filled with tears, not of sadness, but of gratitude. She looked at Kamal, Autumn, Xavier, Mrs. Ramirez, and everyone who believed in her. She saw the transformation on students' faces, from standoffish skepticism to genuine pride and excitement at having been part of something meaningful. After the concert, the committee gathered in the backstage hallway that led to the locker rooms. The door to the gym remained open, and the buzz of laughter and applause floated through. Autumn turned to Madeline, hugging her tightly. "You did it. You changed this school." Kamal nodded, tears glistening. "Your idea was perfect. They saw our beauty." Madeline exhaled and said simply, "We just needed to be heard." In the next week, Maplewood High's hallways buzzed with newfound respect. In her English class, a girl who had once made fun of her hair asked hesitantly, "Do you have any more songs I could learn?" Her teammates on the tennis team approached her, apologizing for how they had ignored her in PE class. In the lunchroom, upperclassmen who used to shove desks back into her path invited her to join their table. Even Coach Reeves, who had always sidelined her during tryouts, offered a nod when he walked past. "Good job with the concert, Torres." The administration recognized the impact. They awarded the committee a Spirit of Maplewood plaque and featured them in the school newsletter with a headline, "United in Song, Maplewood Students Embrace Diversity." Local media picked up the story, and the school's principal invited Madeline and her team to present their concert blueprint at a regional educators conference. Their success became a model for other schools struggling with the same divisions. For Madeline, the greatest reward was seeing her classmates embrace each other's differences as strengths. When she walked through the halls, she no longer felt the isolation she once did. Instead, she saw classmates chatting about a Korean pop song someone had performed, or asking a friend to teach them a few flamenco steps, or learning Hindi words from a classmate who shared a traditional dance. She realized that kindness and curiosity were contagious, and that mere exposure to other cultures could spark compassion where cruelty once thrived. That spring, when college applications arrived, Madeline wrote in her personal essay about that one concert. She wrote, "They called me different, but I came to understand that difference is a gift we give to each other when we share our stories, our songs, our struggles, and our joys. Music taught us that the chords we sing together can weave a tapestry of belonging." Acceptance letters followed. She was admitted to a liberal arts college with a scholarship for leadership and community outreach. She left Maplewood High as valedictorian, not just for her grades, but for her ability to unite her school through empathy and art. Years later, as a freshman at university, she visited Maplewood High for homecoming. The gym had a new banner, "Diversity in Harmony, Class of 17. As she walked past the locker-lined hallways, she heard students rehearsing for a new concert, one inspired by her original vision. She paused at the art display board and saw a sketch by one of her former classmates. A colorful mural depicting students of all backgrounds singing and dancing together. Beneath it, in bold letters, someone had written, "Celebrating differences, creating community." Madeline smiled, remembering how terrifying it had been to stand up on that stage her junior year and declare her identity worthy of pride. She whispered to herself, "I am different, and that is my strength." She knew that what she had started, one evening of music, had rippled outward, changing the hearts of students she might never meet. And in that moment, she understood that the true beauty of diversity lies not in uniformity, but in the symphony that arises when each unique voice is given a place to be heard.